Drop the mic. Today, we're talking about the PWI 500 list that got released. Who was rated too high? Who was rated too low? We debuted this video last week, so join us now.
Wednesdays are for people's elbows, super kicks, and springboard cutters. You know what that means. It's the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast hosted by Michael Davis on Boom Broadcasting, and it's time to pick up that mic.
Yes, it is. It's time to pick up that mic. I'm your host, Michael Davis of the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast, now debuting and moving to a new time of 3 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday afternoon. There's a couple reasons we wanted to do this. Obviously, we had 2 o'clock at the other place, and that worked out totally fine. But now we have a huge slate in for you for Boom Broadcasting on Wednesdays. It's a packed day because you have quick hits at 9 a.m. You had Sideline Savants that debuted this afternoon at 12. You have Drop the Mic now at 3. Typical Wednesdays, you have Lombardi Party at 6 o'clock with Carson, and then AEW Dynamite, the nightcap, immediately following that show. So we are packed for Wednesdays now, and I want to share with you guys the PWI 500 list of 2024 came out yesterday, and there's always going to be people who are like, oh, this should have happened. Oh, this should have happened. Well, I'm just going to give you guys the information on how they made their list. It's obviously subjective and people will have different opinions, and that's okay. That's totally fine. The evaluation period of this was August 1st, 2023 to July 31st, 2024, a full 365, 366 days that they evaluated this talent. Their primary criteria, according to the official PWI Twitter, was in-ring achievement. So win-loss records, championships, tournaments won, influence, so visibility and prestige within promotion and or the industry, technical ability, quality of moves, matches, in-ring storytelling, competition, success against the most varied and highest quality opponents, activity, a minimum 10 singles, non-tag matches, or barring this, 6 such matches in separate months. And this is interesting. They obviously prioritize singles competition versus tag team competition, and there was criteria met. Cody Rhodes obviously topped that list, as you can see from the graphic. So I'm going to give you some superstars throughout this episode, and we're going to say if they were rated too high or too low. But there's some stuff I got to cover first. First and foremost, I made my own top 10 list for PWI, and I wanted to preface before I went into this list that I had some honorable mentions that didn't make this list. I just excluded New Japan wrestlers, even though you could probably put 2 or 3 up there. Tetsuya Naito, Zack Sabre Jr., a couple of those people come to mind. I just excluded them from my personal list, Sonata being another one. There's several different people you could have put in that top 10 list. I just left them off mine personally because I didn't get to watch as much New Japan this year as I would have wanted, mainly because there's so much content. There's football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, WWE, AEW, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, There's too much. And so I didn't get to follow New Japan as closely. A few others I would have wanted to put on this list is Moose, Nick Namath, or Josh Alexander for TNA. I feel like any of those guys you could sub out for, maybe 8, 9, and 10 on my PWI list, and I will not complain because they have really helped with the resurgence of TNA. And then Sami Zayn. Sami has been a vocal point on Monday Night Raw, not necessarily in the Bloodline story that was the previous year, but his fight for the Intercontinental Championship, his matches against Gunther, and finally overcoming at WrestleMania, having his Intercontinental title run. So here's a few people I did leave off my list. And now if you watched Out of Pocket yesterday, that can be seen still available on demand. I had a nice little graphic, one by one showed my top core rankings, which is the top 8 NFL teams that I did on Out of Pocket yesterday. I'm not going to do that today. I got other graphics to show you, but I did want to put my top 10 in full on the bottom ticker as you can see right here, I kept Cody Rhodes number 1, by the way. Cody main event WrestleMania. He won back-to-back Royal Rumbles. He's still WWE champion as this list was released. He's the guy right now. He had great matches against AJ Styles. He's had a good match against Kevin Owens on pay-per-view, even though that's outside of the evaluation period. I just feel like Cody Rhodes, and let's remember, Cody Rhodes was about to not be in the WrestleMania main event. I still think that was some sort of a work, some sort of a play, and kind of a little bit of manipulation on WWE's part. But it is what it is. Cody got himself in the main event of WrestleMania, and he main evented both nights. And that tells me enough. Will Ospreay, I'm wearing my Bruv jersey. As you can tell if you're watching on Drop the Mic. You could easily put this guy number 1. There's some reasons I didn't. He's obviously newer to AEW, so he was doing great in Japan. He moved to AEW, and he's killing it. Literally any match he has is not only a match of the night candidate, but a match of the year candidate. I got to see his full-time main roster debut for AEW at Revolution in Greensboro Coliseum against Takeshita, which we're going to be talking about Takeshita a little later on this episode. And it was unreal. You could easily put Will Ospreay number 1, and I would be totally okay with that. The only reason I gave Cody the edge was he's on top of the industry right now. WWE champion. He was on top of WrestleMania 40. Will Ospreay needs a stadium main event. He needed to main event All In this past year, but we'll see what Will Ospreay does in AEW. Third is Swerve Strickland. Swerve did main event that stadium show this past year, despite being outside the evaluation period. But being AEW's first black champion, his feud with Hangman, I mean, that alone will elevate you into the top 3. And he just did fantastic and really got the fans behind him. At number 4, I have Bryan Danielson. Now, I did get the same top 3 that PWI gave. PWI gave Cody 1, Ospreay 3, Swerve 2. Bryan Danielson got ranked 14th. This is too low. If I'm telling you that Will Ospreay, of all people, had match of the year candidates and match of the night candidates, Bryan Danielson was right there. Bryan Danielson literally has been putting everything into all of his matches. And yet for what? 14th in PWI? Again, it's subjective. Okay, whatever. But I would say that Bryan Danielson comes in for number 5. Guys, let's not forget about Seth Rollins, who carried the entire Monday Night Raw brand on his bad back. He was WrestleMania weekend MVP. Getting in that tag team match, going through it, still broke back everything. Went on to open the night 2 of WrestleMania, wrestling Drew McIntyre, and then coming out limping to play a key vital role in the end of Roman's historic title run. Seth had great matches to defend his title against Drew McIntyre, against Shinsuke Nakamura. The list goes on and on and on. Seth Rollins, easy top 5 guy. He ended up getting 4th from PWI. Gunther got 5th. Gunther lands at 6 for me. Longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. Brutal matches. Won the King of the Ring tournament. That was easy. MJF, I valued at 7. Now, I almost left him out of this PWI list to put one of those TNA guys in. The reason I didn't is the evaluation period gets his main event stadium show against Adam Cole last August. That'll do it for you. That was phenomenal storytelling. MJF was the best AEW wrestler last fall. And even though he missed some time at the beginning of the year, I still think he came back in enough time, got a few matches in, had a really great title run at the end of the year, had great character storytelling enough to land him in the top 10 and is 7th on my list and PWI. Next, I got Drew McIntyre, who was left out PWI's top 10. Drew literally carried a storyline with CM Punk without CM Punk being able to wrestle. Drew McIntyre was able to build up a WrestleMania story against Seth Rollins, even though he was more focused on the bloodline. Drew McIntyre won the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, even though he lost it in Money in the Bank cash-in by Damian Priest. And constantly throughout the summer, Drew McIntyre has been in one of the hottest feuds in WWE and pro wrestling. Speaking of Damian Priest, I got him at 9. I think PWI valued him a little too high at number 6. I would put a lot more superstars above Damian Priest, but he's undeniable right now, being Money in the Bank winner for most of the year, holding it. Everybody was getting bored. I'm like, just you wait. And then he cashes in. Has a huge cash-in moment at WrestleMania. Had a really good run as World Heavyweight Champion while it lasted until Gunther won it. And he's absolutely doing some of the best work. And then at 10, again, I could have put any of these TNA guys. I could have put Sami Zayn. I could have even threw in a New Japan guy, but that wouldn't have been fair. At 10, I have Joe Hendry. And do you believe? Yes, I do. Joe Hendry is ranked 51 in this PWI list. And I'm just trying to think of a guy who actually drew eyes to every promotion in the world that he's on. Drew eyes to his song on TikTok and Apple Music and Spotify Music. This is a guy who defied barriers. I wasn't a Joe Hendry believer, but if you, as an independent wrestler, can become a world-renowned superstar to where WWE is asking for the Joe Hendry rub, you have done something unheard of. This is the stardom that AEW has been trying to get and trying to build up. And MJF is one of those examples. Will Ospreay, his name was made in Japan. Bryan Danielson came from WWE. CM Punk came from WWE. Joe Hendry, to be a non-WWE and non-AEW superstar and to get the popularity he has and to get people watching TNA, get people seeing him, getting to be that hot commodity that everybody wants, you got to give it to Joe Hendry. 51 was way too low. And we'll get into our top high, top low. I mean, we're going to get into all those and see how they ranked. But what I wanted to do, there was a guy who was left off the entire list. Roman Reigns. I'm speechless. I'm without words. How does Roman Reigns get left off this PWI 500 list? Apparently, he didn't wrestle enough. And there's going to be people that I bring up here in the next few minutes that didn't wrestle enough. That's it. It baffles me. I'm not asking to put him in your top 10. I didn't put him in my top 10. But he main evented both nights of WrestleMania. He wrestled at the Royal Rumble. He was there. And his story was good. How do you not put Roman Reigns anywhere on this list? Yes, people have complained about him being too low if he was not in the top 100, if he was not in the top 200. Yeah. I get that. But to put Cody Rhodes at number 1, you don't get Cody at number 1 if you don't get Roman Reigns. How? Okay? There were some tag matches he had over the last year. Obviously, Night Champions, Reigns and Sikoa versus Owens and Zayn. Roman Reigns also in the Bloodline Civil War at Money in the Bank. Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso at SummerSlam. Reigns defending the title successfully at Crown Jewel. Roman defending the title in a fatal four-way match at the Royal Rumble. How do you leave Roman Reigns off? And that just it just irks me because there's going to be some people who made this list who I can say the same about. But let's get into that. Starting our too high or too low, we got Mustafa Ali. That's the name I want to bring up. Before I even go into this, I'm not going to say, was this guy better than Roman Reigns? Because the answer to all of these will be no. But I will say Mustafa Ali has defied the odds. He's the exact example you need for somebody who has left WWE, had hit a brick wall in WWE, and goes somewhere else and really, really shows up and shows off. 19 might have been a little too high for my taking, but I won't say that because he did it. Like, he bet on himself and he did it, and he went to TNA and pulled off characters that WWE was saying no to, and Mustafa Ali was that guy, and I hope to see him more in TNA. Of course, his campaigns ended, but what does that really mean? We need to see more Mustafa Ali in our wrestling lives and our fandom. And another one, Christian Cage, coming in at 29. Now, I'm doing this a little out of order, and you'll see here in a second. But Christian Cage is having the best run of his career. It it's it's amazing to me how his storytelling is with the father gimmick, how he changed Luchasaurus's name to Kill Switch, how he's getting Nick Wayne the rub, but he's really getting the rub from Mama Wayne. I mean, I want to keep it PG here, but it's weird. And Nick Wayne's following his new father, Christian Cage. Christian Cage, people counted him out. People got upset about Tony Khan signing him and making a big deal. I was excited when it happened because I was like, man, Christian Cage came back at the Royal Rumble back in 2021. So now we get to have an actual Christian Cage run. And my hopes weren't even this high. Like, he's exceeded all my expectations, and it's fantastic. I'm saying he is too low because I'm going to be unbiased. One of my favorite wrestlers was just too high on this list. Adam Copeland. Remember, Christian Cage was 29th. Adam Copeland was 26th. And I'm looking back at this year, and I'm like, okay, you had Adam Copeland, or formerly known as Edge at this point, have his farewell match from WWE against Sheamus. That was hard, brutal, nasty. Adam Copeland coming into AEW at Wrestle Dream, coming in, feuding with Christian Cage, had a great feud, had a great rivalry, ended up winning the TNT title, ended up wrestling a lot. He would wrestle a lot on Collision. This was so vital to the company, especially after CM Punk's departure, because CM Punk, that's what Collision was made for. And so insert Adam Copeland, and I think he did fantastic. Unfortunately, he spent a good majority of this year hurt. He didn't even get to make AEW Revolution because he was, he was kayfabe hurt. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? Why wouldn't you put Adam Copeland on that pay-per-view against Christian Cage? Ended up doing a couple weeks later. And then his big defense against Malachi Black, he gets hurt. And I just feel, as much as I love Adam Copeland, this is one of my favorite wrestlers. Like this, there's a Funko Pop behind me. I love Adam Copeland. I love Edge, love his work. I will never say anything bad about Adam Copeland, but PWI, you rate him just too high, especially if you're going to rank Christian Cage, who has been here the entire year. If you're going to rank Christian Cage below Adam Copeland, like, unbiasedly, that was the wrong move. Remember how I said Roman Reigns didn't wrestle enough, so he wasn't in the PWI 500? Logan Paul at 37? 37. Logan Paul. Did he wrestle enough? How many times Did he defend the United States Championship? I heard everywhere, oh, Logan Paul sucks. Logan Paul sucks. He's not defending the title. He's not defending the title. How does he get to 37? And Roman's like, I mean, I main event both nights of WrestleMania. I, defend the title at Royal Rumble. I defend the title at SummerSlam, the crown jewel. And how's Logan Paul get to be 37, even get to be on this list? Above the likes of some we'll talk about, above the likes of Hangman Page, above the likes of Josh Alexander, Cruel, Rey Mysterio, Carmelo Hayes, Oba Femi, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, Claudio Castagnoli, Jack Perry, Ricochet. I mean, Finn Balor, Chris Sabin. We could go on and on and on and on and on. Mance Warner, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Chad Gable, Daniel Garcia, Jacob Fatu. I mean, Shota Umino. There's so many guys that could have been a lot higher than Logan Paul. And I wouldn't have hated Logan Paul being in like the 300s or the 400s. But come on. There's no reason Logan Paul should have been 37th and Roman Reigns be unranked. Speaking of Roman Reigns, someone who's been tied to it for quite some time, Kevin Owens, coming in at 58. I want to say this is about right. Looking at some of the people who were higher than them, looking at some of the people who were lower than them. But I'll say this about Kevin Owens. I would even make the argument he should have been top 50 just because he's WWE's designated hitter. He was a mainstay in that bloodline story. He was able to be a tag team with Sami Zayn. He was able to help Austin Theory and Grayson Waller get up, off the ground. And actually, after he put him on the ground with one punch, two faces. Kevin Owens at 58, he should have gotten a little bit more respect. I'll say a little bit more respect in everything he was doing. And honestly, he's wrestled more than Logan Paul. So that should be it. Again, we did a little bit out order. And for a reason too. I think Kevin Owens should have been rated a lot higher than Logan Paul. Braun Breaker at 52. There's going to be some of these guys coming up that I'm going to say this is the lowest rating that they will have in the next 10 years. Braun Breaker is the first of that list. Braun Breaker coming in at 52 isn't bad. You know what? It's honestly like it's even a little bit higher than yeah. Let me see. Braun Breaker coming in at number 52. Carmelo Hayes coming in at 48. He's a little lower than Carmelo Hayes. So I almost want to say Braun Breaker is better than Carmelo Hayes, especially with the main roster adjustment. So I could even make the case Braun Breaker should have been higher than Carmelo Hayes, but I feel like Carmelo Hayes should have been lower and Braun Breaker about right. But this guy, with what he's been doing on the main roster so far, he's the current Intercontinental Champion. I think Braun Breaker, he's not going to be rated lower than 30 for the next 10 years. I'm sorry. Unless PWI messes it up or he gets seriously injured and misses quite some time, Braun Breaker is going to be a mainstay in WWE, a mainstay in AEW. Kyle Fletcher, 65. And I'm going to bring up somebody else too. Kyle Fletcher's had phenomenal matches. And he's done a really good job of transitioning to the singles competition. That's what he's been doing. And it's been fantastic. Kyle Fletcher is somebody you can insert into a match and expect it to be really, really good. I was in person for a Kyle Fletcher versus MJF match as MJF was gearing up for Will Ospreay at All In this past August. And grant that match was outside the evaluation period, and I'm not including that. But that's just one example of, You put Kyle Fletcher in a match, you know it's going to be good. Just like Konosuke Takeshita at 67, same thing, same story. You know if Takeshita's in a match, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. You have Will Ospreay at AEW Revolution. You have Takeshita's work last year, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega. Takeshita and also is making more appearances than just AEW, some over in Japan. I feel like 67 for Takeshita should have been higher, especially when you think of Logan Paul. Really? Really? But even through this, like Max the Impaler, I feel like Takeshita did a better job at those than anyone else. You have Blake Christian, sorry. You have Solo Sikoa, sorry. Rocky Romero, sorry. I'm not trying to put any wrestlers down to elevate others. I don't think that's healthy. But Takeshita, in the moments he was in the ring and what he was doing, phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. So I said Braun Breaker was going to be the guys who were, going to be one of the better mainstays in the top 30. This guy, Dominic Mysterio, he is going to be higher in the rankings for years to come. And I just think PWI did it on purpose that Dominic Mysterio is the 69th ranked wrestler in this PWI 500 list. Is that so? Is that so? Look at that stash. Look at that ugly mullet. People love to hate him. He's got Liv Morgan on his side. Dominic Mysterio has put it together character-wise. He is the only guy who became a bigger heel with a heel turn. It is phenomenal what Dominic Mysterio is doing in WWE, and you know what? I'm going to say this is just about right. Personally, you need the in-ring stuff to get a little bit better. I understand. But Dominic Mysterio, this is the lowest rank he will see for quite some time. And here's somebody who is bouncy. Javon Evans, formerly known as Jay Malachi. He's in his first year signed to WWE. He finished up a strong independent run, including a DPW championship. And he did a lot of stuff with Firestar Pro Wrestling, where he got his training from LeBron Cazone. Javon Evans has just blown people away. And I'm always concerned, especially how I saw Cameron Grimes, formerly known as Trevor Lee, now known again as Trevor Lee. I see those people, get their opportunity, and then when they get to the somewhere, they just WWE doesn't know how to use them. And so I was worried about Javon Evans because I see his talent, and I'm just hoping he continues to be used. And I think he will be. I think 95 is the lowest ranking he will have for the next 10 years. He's going to be good. He's going to be real good. He's going to be real bouncy. And he's going to be a future NXT champion in the course of this next evaluation period. Phenomenal stuff from Javon Evans. So I'm not mad at 95, even though he had a good independent run to top his stuff in NXT, especially the main moments, especially main eventing an NXT pay-per-view, Fatal 4-Way. It might be a little too low, and I don't want to bring my own bias into it, but don't worry, bro. It's only up from here. One I'm really upset about, Darby Allin. How do you help the Icon Sting in his retirement tour? How do you help him get through some brutal tag team matches? How do you put your body on the line? How do you literally you're about to climb Mount Everest, you break your foot, you're out for a while, you come back to AEW when they need you. How do you have that big Wrestle Dream main event with Christian Cage? How are you 97th? and Logan Paul is 40 spots above you? Please, give me a break. Darby Allin, probably the biggest snub and the most underrated by PWI this ranking. Darby Allin at 97? Really? Come on. Darby Allin needs more respect than that. I mean, dude literally throws himself through a glass panel. It was terrible. It was terrifying. And Darby Allin's 97th. What else do you need the guy to do? Like, for real. When Sammy Guevara hasn't been around, when MJF got hurt, and when Jack Perry was, off somewhere, he got suspended, and then they were working the storyline, Darby was there. Darby was there. Darby's been there. He's been the heartbeat of AEW. Way too low. Now, I didn't want to give away the entire list, because 500 would be a really long wrestling podcast episode. We have more content for you to watch today on Boom Broadcasting. We have a few more. And mentioning Boom Broadcasting, one of our content creators, Mouth Off with Mike, loves this guy. The Beast Mortos. I wish I had gotten Mouth Off with Mike to do a voiceover to introduce the Beast Mortos. This is another guy I feel like was a little too low, especially with everywhere he's wrestling. He's doing more stuff with AEW now. Used to be the Black Taurus. He's going places. Like, he is an interesting creature. He's an interesting fella. He can move. I feel like once he gets a story, maybe there's a stable that's built around him. Maybe he gets a mouthpiece, a manager. I think that aspect is lacking, but I don't think it was so low enough to get to 224. Now, remember, I did bring up Roman Reigns being unlisted because PWI say he hasn't wrestled enough. Tell me when the last time Omos wrestled. I'm waiting. Okay? So, I'm waiting. If you look at Wikipedia, and of course that doesn't get main event, that doesn't get, this, that, whatever, if Omos has wrestled, but Wikipedia says that Omos wrestled in the Slim Jim SummerSlam Battle Royal last year. That does that even hit the evaluation period? Barely. August 5th. So that was 4 days into the evaluation period. Omos' next match recorded on Wikipedia is the 2024 Royal Rumble, followed by the 2024 Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on a random SmackDown. I had to look at Wikipedia to tell me when Omos wrestled in 2024. In this evaluation period from August 1st of last year to July 31st of this year, I had to look on Wikipedia when Omos wrestled. And he's ranked at 233. So he's in the top half of the PWI 500. And I can hear Matt Cosgrove now, but he's an attraction. Yes, well, so is Roman Reigns. And that was a sarcastic, he's an attraction for Matt Cosgrove. We've had this back and forth. And I think if used right, he could be an attraction. But if Roman Reigns gets left off the list completely and Omos wasn't, we have issues. Another guy I would have to look, and this is a guy I actually like, Karrion Kross. I just can't tell you how many singles matches he had throughout 2024, throughout this evaluation period. I just can't tell you how many times he wrestled. He had that feud with Bobby Lashley last year, but there's just not much. His feud with AJ Styles last year concluded in August, where AJ Styles was victorious. There was a 4-month hiatus before Cross, wrestling the United States title tournament, lost in the first round. He brought the Final Testament together to feud with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. And he's been really good character-wise on screen, trying to have a divide between the New Day. But Karrion Kross at 312, as much as I love Karrion Kross, as much as I think he should get an opportunity, PWI rated him too high. And that is not hateful. I love Karrion Kross, but that's just the reality. If you're going to leave, if you are going to leave Roman Reigns off of this list, then why do you include the likes of Karrion Kross? Why do you include the likes of Omos? It just feels disrespectful. That's all I have to say. Drop the mic. This has been your 102 episode, and this covered the PWI 500. If you guys enjoyed this episode, do us a favor. Tell somebody. Tell somebody, hey, there's this great channel. They do a lot of wrestling, football, basketball, TV show review, comedic relief. It does so much stuff. I think you'd really enjoy at least one of these episodes. Maybe you enjoyed this one. And it's awesome. We just crossed the threshold a couple days ago, 400 subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's not a number we brag on. That's just to say thank you for supporting us. There's a Fanatics link that is dropped on Out of Pocket if you guys want to check that out. Also on our social medias. But guys, we also debuted an outro video this when was it? Last week. Yeah, it was last week. Thanks for tuning in to Drop the Mic in our noon time slot at 3 o'clock. Can't wait to see you back next week. Can't wait to see you back for Out of Pocket tomorrow at 5:30. AEW Dynamite Nightcap after the show tonight. And then It Stinks. Sean's show. He does phenomenal work. He's a busy man too. So he takes time, watches TV shows, reviews them, so you don't have to waste your entire time to see if it stinks or not. But this has been the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast. Michael Davis. Whatever you do, don't drop the mic, and we will see you guys back here next week.